listeners, Harika here, and I'm super excited to welcome you to UppTalk. If you're ready to learn and get your hands work wonders in the world of information technology, then you're in the right place. When I say UppTalk, we are not just another edtech company. Consider we are your learning partner committed to unlocking your full potential. Whether you're stepping into the world of technology for the first time or looking to advance your career, we provide top-tier, hands-on courses to build up your career. Let's take our first step towards learning here and explore it.
Talking about these things, we learned this thing, and from here we are going to start now. Basically, core connectors. Core connectors are cloud connectors, which we have already discussed. Like this is a template-based connectors. Core connectors, you can say cloud connectors. You can also say Workday, Daily Word, pre-built integration templates. Basically, we understood how to create integration using EIB. In EIB, basically, the source of data was your custom report. You use your custom reports. You have source of data as web services as well. But whenever you will create EIB outbound, then generally you are going to use custom reports as a data source. Now we have another integration method, that is core connectors. In core connectors, what they actually provide us some templates. Those templates are kind of predefined templates where you can extract similar kind of data. For example, if you want to extract worker related data, you have one template core connector worker. You have another template core connector global worker, and there is one more template which a worker effective change interface. Like that, if you want to get data related to payroll, you have to connect two templates. That is a payroll interface and then PG payroll effective change interface. Like that. There are many core connector integration. To create core connector integrations, you have one task which is called create integration system. Before we start creating core connector, you understand core connectors are of two types. One is end-to-end connectors. End-to-end connectors are defined for specific vendors. For example, we have PG payroll, effective change interface for ADP. I mean that can be used for other payroll system as well, but for payroll systems for ADP, we have certified ADP connectors. Similarly, in us for Fidelity, there are many other core connector templates which can be used for Fidelity system. Basically, there are some connectors. There are some templates which has been designed in Workday for specific vendors for specific systems. Those are something we call end-to-end connectors. And the another connector type we have is generic connectors. For example, core connectors. End-to-end connectors are mainly for specific systems, specific vendors, for specific functions. Generic connectors are connectors which can be used by any system. I mean, if someone is asking for some general kind of data which may require by many other systems, those templates we call as generic connectors. For example, core connector workers. See, in your company, let's say you have 20 other vendors which are consuming data from Workday. And all those vendors require worker data from Workday. In that case particularly, you are going to use core connector workers. A core connector worker will extract the data from Workday and it will pass data to all other systems. By a one core connector integration, you may need to create multiple core connector integration for each and every vendor because each and every vendor will require some different number of fields, a different number of attributes. We have two kinds of cloud connectors. One is into-in connector which has been for witches, which has been designed for specific system or vendors. And then we have generic connectors which can be utilized to send general data from Workday to any other system. Now we will see how to create core connector integrations. To create a core connector integration, you have one task: create integration systems. Let's go to Workday. In Workday, you type create integration system. Create integration system. Click on create integration system. Here let's say Ganesh ccdo outbound. You can follow the numbing convention, whatever will be used in the company. Then here you can see there is one template. You are going to define template here only. Let's say you want to extract data for workers. You have one template core connector worker. Core connector worker, core connector, global worker. You will find the differences in the Workday community. Right now you don't have access to Workday community, but whenever you will join any company, you will get Workday community access. In Workday community, basically that is something you can call as a library for Workday. Whatever things you will be doing, whatever you want to understand, whatever you will be having queries, and all you will be able to find that's a Wikipedia of Workday. You can say Wikipedia of Workday. Right now you don't have access to Workday community. That's fine. You will get access when it will start working on, and there you can explore the definition of the templates. How exactly we configure the templates, everything you will be able to see there. Now here you one note it. These templates are delivered by Workday, right? We are not designing this template. These are pre-designed by Workday. We are just using these templates. And you can have many templates. If I just click on all integration templates, see there are many templates. All the templates are for specific purpose. In your company, whatever your system is inbound to, whatever vendors they are using, based on the vendors, you can use the specific templates. Whenever you see one advice, like whenever you get something to design integration, when you join any company, the first thing you do is you explore on community. Like this is a system where you want to send data. Do we have any specific template to send this kind of data or not? Do we have into 8 connectors? Can we do only with the configuration instead of creating integrations? Just explore and community, and then you pick the template. You decide which integration system you have to use, whether it's the EIB, Core, Connector, Studio, whatever it is. You just explore on Workday community first, and then you just go with the approach. Here I am using Core Connector Worker template. I'll show you how to create a Core Connector integrations. Core Connector Worker. Then click on it. Here the comment section where you can write the description about this integration why you have created, for which vendor you have created, and all. Is that the one? Is that the one? Like end to end and global. The difference is global is a generic connector or both are generic connectors. Whenever there is end to end connectors, you will understand that. For example, we have some template for our LinkedIn. Those are for LinkedIn only. If you type the links, see there are LinkedIn recruiter system, connect, export, import. Right. Here it's pretty much simple. Like these are for end-to-end connectors. These are end-to-end connectors. And there is another PG. That is payroll effective change into a integration. Payroll effective change. This is something we use for third-party payroll system. There are many templates. You need to understand all these templates. You will understand all these templates when you will actually start working. But the thing is, like, whenever you are attending any interviews, and all definitely they are going to ask you, like, what are all the templates you have worked on. In general, I will teach you Core Connector Worker. That will be related to somehow will be related to other templates. You create integration for those templates. And then you will learn because definitely they're going to ask. Here are some recommendations from my side. You create Core Connector Worker. Then Core Connector position. Then you have for location. I mean here in the initial, I'm just mentioning CC location. That's what that is for Core Connector. Location. Then say shared Core Connector organizations. These are the most easiest connectors. You can start with this thing. Like you know how to create integrations and all, and you have worked on this template. Whenever you get into, say, I'm going to teach you this core connector worker, and then I'll show you quickly VG as well. But core connector position, location, organization. Those are the things you can practice along with these two templates. I'm starting with core connector worker. First, you need to provide a template name here. Select the template, click on. You will get one screen. Here you will get the integration system name. This is the integration system name. And here you can see the template which you have chosen. You can see that template name only. Then you have enable all services. What does that mean? Enable all services. If you just look below that, there are many integration services. This enable all services is talking about these services. When you in Core Connector Worker template, basically, Core Connector Worker template offers these many services. Each and every services are having their specific job, specific role. Whenever I will say like services or service operations, you understand, like there is one service. There is one person who has been designed to do one specific task. Here, all these services are designed to do one specific task. We will understand how these services work. What does that mean? And how these services are working actually. Here we are. We can see there is worker data initialization service, and there are a lot of services. If you see that the columns here, this is the integration template service. There in this integration template service, you are able to see a lot of services. If I scroll down, there are a lot of services. Then here you can see initial service to invoke. Basically, which one is the initial service which will be invoked to run the integration. This will be auto-checked. Then there are some services which are optional. For example, this worker data initialization service. This is optional. This is not a mandatory. There are several other services which are optional. If you want to configure this services in your integration system, you can configure. Otherwise, you can just leave these services as an optional. There is no harm in leaving these services. Based on your requirement, you are going to configure all these services. And then the last option, the last column here we have is enabled. This column will tell you like what are all the services which has been enabled. Here, this is initial service. In invoke, by default, this is enabled. This is here. You can see enable this data initialization service is an optional service. Here by default it is optional, but if you want, you can enable this via clicking on this checkbox. There are several other services. You can see which are optional and which is not enabled yet. For example, delivery service, transaction log service worker, file name sequence generator, CSP options. Then you have worker profile photo, personal data section, status data section, position data section, contract data section. Now, when you read these services, then you will be able to understand what services are offering what. For example, let's see this service. This service is offering you to get personal data. If you want to extract personal data, then you would need to enable this service. If you want status data, then you need to enable this service. If you want position data, then you need to enable this service. If you want to configure a sequence generator for the file name, you would need to enable this service. By default, these are not enabled. I am enabling some of the services. For example, file sequence generator, we will enable later. But to extract the data sections, I am enabling some of the services. For example, a personal data section, status data section, position data section. Then I don't want contract tech details and leave of absence detail leave. Let's say compensation details. Then identify worker identification data section. I want to enable. Then apart from this, I don't want to enable anything. I just want to extract data from personal section, personal status, position, compensation, and then identification. This is something. How will you decide? Let's say you got one requirement from one vendor, and in that vendor is asking you to share the personal details, only personal, and worker status detail, whether act worker is active or not active. Along with that vendor is asking you to share the position of the worker, position details of the worker. These are the three only. These are the only three details that vendor is asking. In those cases, you will not enable compensation data. You will not enable identification data. You will simply enable these three services. It's not like I am enabling all this. You also need to enable. This thing is up to you. Whatever data you want to extract, you can enable those services. And then how exactly we configure, like what fields we need to pull. That is something we will come later. Here, when you will create integration, then you just decide anyways, before creating integration, you will get the requirement. You will clarify the requirement. Like what details are required by the vendors. Based on that understanding, you enable the services here. Here I have enabled 5 services. Then, after these 5 services, you can see there is another section here in this integration system, which is custom integration services. These custom integration services, Let's say there is something which you cannot fulfill using these services. You want to design a different service. For example, let's say this core connector, worker integration, is giving you only 20 fields about worker. You want something beyond that. You want something which is not part of those 20 fields. You want some different field value, and that is not there in this template. If the value is not there in this template, how exactly you will extract the value from this integration system? There this custom integration services comes in picture. We have one field override service where you can configure the calculated. We'll see this is a delivered template. It is obvious whatever calculated fields you have created at this point of time, you will not be able to extract. You will not be able to use those calculated fields in this core connector integration template because you have created Workday doesn't know. Workday is not offering those calculated fields to use in this integration system directly. But it doesn't mean you cannot use. Workday has given a separate feature where you can create your own service and you can add those calculated fields there, and you will get the value of those calculated fields in this integration as well. For that one, they have given custom integration service. We will talk about the custom integration services later. At this point of time, you understand there are a lot of services. This template is offering based on requirement. You have to enable those services. If you want to enable each and every services, you can just check this checkbox, enable all services, and then you will be able to enable every. All these services will be enabled automatically. Now I am clicking, I have configured the services which I need. I am clicking on. Now the integration has been completed and it has generated one error. Before I go to the error and explain the error, one thing here you need to understand. See, I have clicked on. That doesn't mean you cannot configure many another services as well. You can reconfigure services. Let's say, if you want to disable one service or enable another service, that is also something you will be able to do using here. You just go to the related action of this integration system. In this related action, go to the integration system and here you will see there is one option, configure integration services. When you will click on configure integration services, then the earlier window where I was configuring services, you will get the same window again. And you can configure the services. Any question till here? All good, everyone. Cool. Basically, this is how you are going to configure services. Now let us come to this error. When you created this, you got one error. Click on the error. When you click on the error, then you read the error. The error is saying there are integration attributes enabled for this integration system that are marked as required for launch, but do not have a value assigned. The first step here is create integration system. Then, once you create integration system, then configure integration services. Once you configure integration services you click on, you will get error. When you have some of the template. In some of the templates you will not get either, but in some of the templates you will get here. Whenever you get the error, you read the year. You understand the either is saying there are some mandatory fields in integration attribute which is required, but you have not configured yet. What we will do? The next step will be configure integration attributes. How can we configure attributes? We can configure attributes using the same channel. Here, you can just go to the related action. Again, go to the integration system, and here you will see there is one at configure integration attributes. Here, don't get confused. There are two attributes. One is configure integration attribute. Another is configure integration field attribute. Field attribute we will discuss later. When you create any integration system, first you need to do is configure integration attribute. Click on configure integration attributes. When you will click on integration attributes, you will be populated like this. Here in this one, seeing the options, you can see there is one field which is required for launch. There is one field which is required for launch. That means this is mandatory in this integration. We are getting error because of this field only. The first thing, what we will do is we will configure this version. Click on this plus icon. When you will click this plus icon, you will get one option to configure. Here you can simply configure the latest version, whatever you will be able to see here. The latest version which I can see is 40.2. I am going to select 40. This is the latest version. Now if you click on that, error will be resolved. If you click, you will not see any error. See, the error is gone. There was one field in field attribute which was mandatory, which I have configured. Right now, I just configured only the mandatory field, but it doesn't mean like we have to just configure the mandatory field. We need to configure other things as well in integration attributes. Let me go to integration attributes again, and then we'll show you what are those. Here, configure integration attributes. In this configure integration attributes, you can configure the output file name. You can configure the output document tags, the format, the name type, what kind of name type you want to pull in the integration. Here it is giving legal name, legal preferred name types. If you want to change, if you don't want legal preferred name, you just want preferred name, you want to change this attribute, then how can you do that? You can simply click on this checkbox. You click on this checkbox and it will become enabled. See, this has become enabled now. Here you can select what are all the name types you want this integration to extract. Why do we have this name type attribute? See, legal name is kind of confidential information. Preferred name is kind of something you know that is also confidential. But preferred name is something you can still send to many other systems. But legal name is something which is there in your property documents, in your bank details, everywhere. Let's say there is one system. You don't want to send legal name details there. Here, you can just restrict here. You can just select like you want only preferred name or you want legal name, preferred name both. You can just configure that thing here. Then you have another attributed country, ISO code. There are multiple kind of ISO code we have. When you will select this checkbox, it will ask you to configure the ISO code type. Then address type. Address is also one of the confidential information. Your office address is not that much confidential, but your personal address is obviously very confidential. If you want this integration to select only work address, by default work address is selected. But if you want to override this configuration and you want to select your own address type, you can just select this checkbox. And then you will be able to select your own address type. See here, you will be able to see work home mail address, a lot of address, business address, Lockbox institutional address. You can select. Let's say you want to choose home and work, both address. You can select here. And like this, there are many other attributes. Address uses include at address private. If you want private addresses to be included, then you need to enable this one. If you do not want to include any non-primary if you want to include any non-primary address, you can select this thing. If you want to configure any specific phone number format, you can click on plus, and then you can do configuration for phone type, for email type, for if you want prior values. This integration is used in change detection also. Let's say you want prior value. Whenever you are changing the value, you want prior value in the integration output as well. Then you can enable this include prior values. Like that, you can just read for each and every attributes. They have even the description. They have given the description. You can read this description and then you can understand what are all the attributes you want to configure for the vendor, or what are all the attributes you want to leave. It again depends on the requirement. Here I have enabled some of the attributes. I have configured the mandatory one, and then I have configured the name type, address type, and let me configure one more phone type. In here info type by default, it is selected work. I'm just leaving that in the last part. If you go, you will see not last part here. If you see there are some. Suppress worker message audit and suppress audit reports. If you don't want to this integration to generate audit reports, you can just check this. You will not get audit reports. Like that. There are many other attributes. I have configured the very basic attributes. When you will create, you go through each and every attribute. You understand what are all these attributes, and based on your requirement, you configure. Now, once you configure the integration attributes, you click on Now you have configured the integration attributes. Now, once you configure the attributes, then the next step you will be having. See, now you have enabled the services like you want. Personal data section. You want a status data section, position data section. You have configured that, and then you have also configured the attributes. Like you want legal name, preferred name. You want work phone, home phone. You want work email, home email. All those things you have configured in integration attributes. Now the next step would be how to select the fields. We have created this integration to extract some field values, right? As of now, we have not configured those fields to generate the values. Now the next step will be configure integration field attributes. Configure integration field attributes. Here, in this configure integration field attributes, you are going to define the fields. Whatever you want in the integration. I'm clicking on. Then what you need to do is you need to go to integration system again. And here you can see configure integration field attributes. Here, when you will open configure field attributes, what you will see here is whatever data section services you have enabled. You will be able to see only those data section here. Now you will understand the purpose. The services, the data section which you have selected. You will be able to see only those data sections. Basically, now from these services, from this data section, you are going to pick the fields whatever you want in the integration. How to pick the fields? Here you can see the name of the field. These are the field names. There are some description for some of the field. There are description for some of the fields. There is no description. Then you have one column include in output. This one is important. Here you are going to enable the output. For example, I need name type, first name and then last name. I need these three fields. I can just click on these check boxes and all those three fields will be enabled. Then there are some validations also here. When I checked on these check boxes, this required field and maximum length got enabled by default. What is this? Let's say this first name is required and required one. You want this first name to be printed for everyone, or if someone is not having the first name updated. Generate errors or warnings. Then you can select this. For example, let's say there is a person named Shreya, that person is having just one name, Shreya. There is no last name. And you mentioned last name is mandatory in this integration. You mentioned last name is mandatory. This integration is going to generate you warnings. Like there is one employee for which last name is not at all there. What to do? You will get notification. Basically, that validations you can do using this required field and then maximum length. Let's say you want name the first name and last name to be only 15 characters. But there is one person. Here in India, in South India, there are many big names, right? And let's say, there is one person who is having 4 names. And now here you have restricted to just 15 characters. When you will restrict the 15 characters, then that will give you a warning. Like your name, the length of your name is exceeding 15 characters. And it will generate the warnings. You can take your decision. See, some of the vendors generally restrict source system to send data with a specific length. Let's say if that vendor is not giving you anything, don't configure anything. If there is any limitation that system is asking, then only you configure these things. Let us select the fields which we want the output file. Here I am just giving name time, first name, last name. Then I need gender, birth date. Then marital status, religion. I don't want these things. Then I need address data. Address data. Let's say I enable address data. And in address data, I am just giving address type, address uses, address line data, municipality, sub-municipality, then postal code, country. Then phone data. I need phone number. I am just enabling phone number. Then I need email data. Email data, then email data, email address. Then I don't want any other thing from personal data section. Then in a status section, just go to the status section. In a status section, I want to see employee status, whether employee is active or not. I want to see hire date. I don't want to see any other thing apart from this. Now just up to here. Then let's just move to position. In position, I want to see the position ID of worker, then primary position. Then I want position title, business title, then worker type, position time type. Then Then I don't need organization data. Then I need job profile. Job profile management label job category. No. Then is enough. Then in the compensation section, I just want the effective date, total annual base pay, total base pay, and the base pay currency. And then in the identification data section, I just want to know the ID. And then just ID. I don't want to enable. Basically what I did in this configure field attributes, I have enabled all those fields which I want this integration to generate in output file. This is how we configure integration field attributes. Click. Once you click, your field attributes will be configured. Now you have already configured the field attributes. If you want to verify, you can just verify in this view mode. Any question till here? How to configure field attributes? No, right. If we don't want to add it, I may add any enable fields. We don't need to configure integration system right. We can just go to attributes field. Third step. No, sorry. Come again. You are mentioning that there are, like you are writing the steps right. First, second step is configure integration system. If we don't want to enable any, edit anything, we don't need that step right. Configure integration system integration services. Second, first one configuration integration services. In that is mandatory right. Because if you do not enable any service, then how will you select data? To select data, you need to configure integration. See this. This data section field attributes came from the services only. If you do not enable any services, any data section, then you will not get anything to configure in field attribute. Got it. Everything is related. Any other question? Once we configure integration field attribute, then we will have to configure the eligibility. Who all workers are eligible. For that one, there is configure integration field override. If you go to configure field override, here in integration field override, you need to configure the eligibility. You can create your own calculated field and you can configure those that calculated field as eligibility. The only thing is here you need to pass through false value, Boolean value. Here I'm just using is true. By default, I'm not defining any specific eligibility. I'm just giving eligibility that everyone will satisfy. I'm not putting any restriction. I'm just putting any is true or is true. There are two fields is true or any is true which you can configure. If you read the click on the related action of this field, you will get the description. Returns value true. It will always be true. It is going to face data for everything. That's how you are going to define the eligibility. You can also create a calculated field. For example, there are two kinds of workers, employee and contractors. You want only employees to be part of this core connector worker integration. You create one true, false calculated field which will extract only, which will true only when worker is employed, and you just add that calculated field here in the eligibility. Here in override external field, and you will get only employees in the integration. If you mention any is true, then it will give you employees as well as contractors. I mean, whatever in the system, whatever workers are available in the system, it is going to fetch everything. Now click on your field. Your eligibility has been configured. Once you configure the eligibility, then the next configuration we have is integration maps. What is integration maps? Let's say in Workday there is some value. Let's say in Workday there are some value and you don't want that value to be sent in a way that value is present in Workday. For example, let's say gender. There is one gender. For gender you don't want. In Workday we have male, female, not declared, something like that. You don't want to send in that way. You want to send us for male. You want to send us M. How can we do that? Let me show you. You said this. This column will be for default value. Here you can just mention anything. Whatever you want to send as a default value. Now here you can map the internal value and the external value. The internal value. Let's say there are 4 kind of genders defined here. I mean, ideally there should be 3, but let's say male for male. I want to generate data as M, then add another. For female. I want to say F and for another not declared. I just want to mention U or ND, whatever it is not declared, let me just mention in day. Like gender, there are many other fields you will be able to see here. Marital status relation, disability, citizenship status, ethnicity. Then you know there are many other fields you will be able to see here where you can define the mapping. If you don't want to mapping, that's fine. You can just ignore this. But these are the options offered by this template. You can enable if you want. Now click on. Basically, now you have generated the minimum thing which is required to run the integration. There are many other things in this core connector, but let us run this integration. Let us see how the file is being generated and what else we need. To run the integration, you need to go to the related action, then the integration, and then launch integration. Then you will see launch whenever you launch Core Connector integration. You will see the parameters, multiple parameters. The parameters are full file. Then as of entry moment, effective date. These are the parameters we have discussed in the past as well of in one session. I was explaining all these parameters like what is as of entry moment. What is as of effective date and all, and then full file and all. Basically, Core Connector Worker Template offers these many parameters. If you create another integration system using different template, you will observe a different set of parameters for that template. For connector, for core connectors, we have these many parameters. In these parameters, basically there are 2 sets. You can see the states are like core connectors offers change detection. In core connector, we can identify the changes. If we need to identify the changes, then to identify those changes, we need to specify two time frames. Those two time frames are this as of effective, is as of entry moment effective date. Last successful as of entry moment, last successful effective date. Last successful effective date and last successful as of entry moment comes from the last integration run. You need to configure in such a way. These values should be picked up from the last integration run. Why do we need change detection? I explained earlier as well in your company. Let's say you have 50,000 workers. When you created integration, you send the details of 50,000 workers to the downstream. Now let's say only few people are changing their details in Workday. Then every day we don't need to send all the 50,000 workers to that system because change is not happening for all those workers. What we will do, let's say today we have sent 50,000 workers as an initial run, then tomorrow we will identify the changes between today's run and tomorrow's run, whatever workers have updated the details in Workday. We would simply pull those workers and send details of those workers to the vendor. On the next day again, we will do the same thing, whatever workers have modified their details in the last 24 hours between the last integration run and the current integration run, we will identify for those things we are going to configure these four parameters. Then you can see there is one full file and workers result restricts results by organization. Now here, if you want to run this integration for any specific worker, for example, I want to run this for just two workers, Logan McNeil and the Jacqueline, the profile which I am using, Logan McNeil and Jacqueline. Let's say you want to run this integration for only two workers. You can configure those two workers here. And this integration will generate values for only those two workers. Then if you want to filter out using organization, like you want to generate results for any specific organization, you will be able to do that using this restrict results by organizations. Then you have full file. Let's say every day you want to generate this integration as a full file. Every day you want 50,000 worker data. Then in that case, you need to check this checkbox whenever. You will check this checkbox, then you will get all the worker details. But remember, if you have given here, if you have configured some workers in the worker filter list and you are selecting this full file, then you will get details of only these two workers only. You will not get the details of other workers because you have hard-coded like I want details of only these two workers. You can remove this. When you will remove this and when you generate a full file, it will extract the details of all the workers in the system. Now I'm clear. I'm just running for two workers. Click on. When you click on, you will get the integration event. This is the integration event which we have seen in Abe. Whatever integration you will run in Workday, you will be having integration events for that. And the integration event will be somehow similar for each and every integration. Whatever parameter you will pass, you will be able to see here in the integration event parameters. Whatever processes will be triggered, you will be able to see. Whatever files will be generated, you will be able to see in output files. Let me refresh this, and this is completed. For core connector integration, what I would say, don't go to output files directly from here. Instead, you click on the parent event. Just click on the parent event in parent event. Just scroll down in the lowest part and here you will see the event documents. Here you will see the event documents or refer to the document from here, Core Connector Worker. By default, the output in Core Connector Worker is output.xml. By default, it is output.xml. Let me open this output.xml. Let me show you how see. This is the XML file which has been generated by the integration I have created just now. Here, if you see, these are the headers. This header contains the parameters which you have passed and the number of records, number of workers which has been picked in this integration. This will contain the basic integration details. Then here, if you see this is worker in worker, you will start getting the worker details. There are two workers. If you see there will be two worker nodes. This is one worker node and this is another worker node. See, there are two worker nodes. This worker node contains one worker detail, and the another worker node contains the another worker details. Now, if I expand this worker, then you will be able to see this is the employee summary, employee id and name, and then in the personal data section, whatever fields you have selected, you will be able to see only those fields. If you do not see any specific field which you have selected, then you understand either that field is not having value for that worker or you don't have security to access that field. That is why you are not able to see those tags. Here it might be I have configured 20 fields, but I am getting only 15 fields. For one worker, 17 fields for another worker. That is happening because one worker is having data updated. Another worker is not having data updated for those fields. Basically here, if you see, you will be able to see whatever fields you have configured in the integration field attribute. In the personal data section, you configured name data, then you configured address data, then you configured phone data, email data. Then there is another section. You configure the status section. In a status section, you selected employee status, active status, then hire date, then you selected position data position section. In position section, see I selected the position id, primary position, position title, business title. I can see all those details here. And then in the compensation, I selected very few fields, for example, effective date, total annual base pay rate, total base pay, and then a base pay currency. I selected these many fields. All these details have been extracted by this integration. Now here, if I open another worker, then for another worker also, I have extracted the same thing. Now you understood how these things are working, how you configure the services, how you configure the field attributes, then how exactly you can see those details in the output file. Now here, notice one thing. We have selected gender as well, right? I'm just looking for that gender value. See here, gender here. If you see for first worker, gender has not been picked for second, or it has been picked here in gender. If you see it is coming as if, why it is coming as if in Workday. If you see the value of gender is female, but it is coming as if why it is coming because we have configured integration maps. Integration map has converted internal value into external value. Internal value was male female, not declared external values, F, based on integration maps. It is just deriving the value. This is how you create clear core connector integrations. In that core connector integrations, you are going to follow these many steps and then you will be able to launch the integration. These are the basic. There are other things as well in this core connector integration, which we will talk about maybe tomorrow. I think this is enough for you today to grasp. Guys, I would say you just try to practice. You create core connector worker template integration. do the practice. If you face any issues in creating integration, just let me know. But if you have any question, you let us just discuss. Now, anybody is having any question, I'm going to yes, in Core Connectors, the integration templates are pre-built, right? Yes, pre-built. We are not going to design those templates. Those are directly available from Workday. And when we talk about the gender specifications, like for male, it will with in a female. All these things are no way related to the evaluation conditions. You have seen calculated field strings. Basically, I mean, this is something this is doing. What you can do in evaluate calculated field as well, right? See, the thing is, there are many ways you can do the same thing in Workday. Let's say you create one calculated field, and I'll show you. Right now, I have not shown you how to use calculated field in Core Connector Worker Integration, but tomorrow I'll show you how to add calculated fields also. You can get the values in few from calculated field also. But here what we need to understand, see this template. This Core Connector Worker template is offering us something, right. There are some features this template is offering. If that mapping feature is already there in this template, why would I create a separate calculated field? There is no point of that, right? That is, we don't have to create it. I'm not saying that we have to create here, but is this calculate core connectors? Do they pull me data from the evaluating conditions, whatever, from the calculated field? Yes. I mean this core connector can get data from any calculated field. You can create in the system. The only thing is that is something. I'll show you Kana tomorrow how exactly we can do that. That's a bigger step that does not comes in the template. I mean the delivered template. Whatever we have, this core connector worker, by default, that will not offer you to use calculated field. But there is one service which we are going to create tomorrow. In that service, we will be using that calculated field also. It depends. Let's say you need to in the very first day I have asked you to create security using calculated field. That security key is not at all available in this integration system. Now let's say your vendor is asking you to send that security key also. Now you have that calculated field. uh, you have created that calculated field, you have core connector integration, but you don't have direct way to use that calculated field. Then definitely there is some other way we have in this template which we will be creating, and we know we will configure the calculated field that I'll show you. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@upptalk.com.